Okay, going live there. I think we're live on Instagram too. All right. And here we go.
Let's go. Let's get it. 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 Let's go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fran and Friends. It is Friday. You know, when you see Fran, it's Friday.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, today, my guests, I know all my guests are special, but Jay, he's special in a way where he has pushed me. And I say that in the most loving way to help me grow emotionally, mentally. What what's going on here? Did I have the only other? Okay, well, that was unexpected. So that was only to emphasize that Jay does the emotional work. So, everybody, I would love to introduce you to Jay Chanthalangsy, who is a healing practitioner for ally emotional healing. He also does quite a few other things as entrepreneurs do. So, I'll let Jay just kind of share with you a bit more about his background and wherever he feels led to go. I trust Jay, and so let's get it.
Thank you so much, beloved friend. Good to see you. Good to see your face. I love your face. And thank you so much for that amazing intro. Like Fran said, I'm a self-care and healing coach. Been doing this for the last 6 years now, and I help clients start their healing journeys because I truly believe that healing is the hustle. Everyone has something to heal from, whether it be trauma, things in the past, emotions of overwhelm or shame or guilt. We carry a lot from things that happened to us in the past, and maybe we're not aware of it. So I help my clients begin that journey. And most times when clients come to me, they are pretty much tired of being sick and tired. They have this catalytic moment in their lives where they are forced out of desperation and depletion. They are forced to make a decision to change their lives, to move into a direction that will serve them because they're just depleted. They're just in survivor mode. So I am blessed to be the guide to take them on that journey. And it's been an honor for me to do this work and to see the transformation in real time, just as I've seen you, Fran, as you've transformed in this new season of your life. So that's what I do. And I have different modalities that I use to help my clients, start that journey. I use emotion code and body code, a healing and energy healing technique developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And I use that to help my clients understand any type of blocked energies that they have that enable that disable them to like move forward or have these limiting beliefs or anything that blocks them from moving towards a life that they really want. So
Wow, I just did like a whole backtrack of the description that you were identifying where your clients were. And I'm like, dang, I remember that day like it was yesterday.
yeah.
I was trying to politicize myself. Together, Jay. It's just I just need this.
Right. Well, when clients come to me, like I said, I mean, they're pretty much hitting the wall, right? In their lives where they feel really stuck, or they don't know what the next step is, or they're just really, really exhausted, like physically, mentally, emotionally, um, and they're really desperate. But we all know that out of desperation can come motivation to change. And once someone is fed up enough, once that, catalyst to change is so great, once it's like so desperate, they will try to do anything, right? And but then they just don't know where to start, right? They need that just a little bit of pushing, a little bit of guidance. And for me,
Mm.
I bring my clients on the journey, right? The healing journey. And my definition of the healing journey has the 5 A's in it. So the first one is always awareness, right? So whatever happens to them that kind of opens up their eyes to then become curious to understand, like, well, I can't continue my life like this, right? I can't continue to be tired. I can't continue to be angry. I can't continue to cry all the time. Like something has to change. Boom, curiosity sets in, and they ask the right questions in this first stage of awareness, right? And then that's when those questions lead to better questions to understand why they're put in that position in the first place. So for me, I was always an angry person. I was always a easily triggered individual. I would take out my anger on, my wife, my kids. I was very insensitive. Right? I was lack of empathy, lack of awareness, very prideful. I mean, you name it, right? I was that guy. And so for me, it came to a point where I was constantly fighting with my wife, right? She almost left me. We had a big fight. I left for like a week, didn't call her. It's just very, toxic.
Yeah.
And when we, came back together, I finally made the decision because I was so exhausted of fighting, so exhausted of, staying up late and having these drawn out arguments for like weeks at a time.
Mm.
And the energy and tension between us was just unbearable.
Mm.
And so that was my catalyst. One day I just sat in my bathroom mirror and I asked the questions like, why am I always fighting with my wife? Why am I always getting easily triggered? Why am I always getting angry?
Mm.
Then, then something just clicked and was like, maybe it's not her. Maybe it's not other people. Maybe it's like something with me. Like,
Oh my God.
maybe I'm the one messed up.
Uh,
So those important questions are then you start to wonder about it, and that's that spark of curiosity is all you need. And then when you start to answer your own questions, then it leads to other stages and other deeper realizations to progress you forward in your healing journey. Because this healing journey is going to be long, it's going to be arduous, it's going to be exhausting. Sometimes you want to quit, sometimes you want to just be like, yeah, I don't even want to. I don't even want to be aware anymore. Like I just want to be ignorant. I don't even want to
so
be like understand myself. I don't want to do the shadow work. I don't want to, talk to anyone because sometimes there are days where you're just like, this is just too much. You start to replay trauma. You start to go back to your childhood, and it can get really, really emotionally, overwhelming.
yeah.
And so, in different stages that you go on, I also have different things that, my clients can do and, activities that can help them move along in that stage. Because at the end of the, towards the end of the journey, and I told you this before, your healing journey starts to become more of a healing adventure.
Mm.
You go through all the shadow work, you go through all the steps you need, you take the action, right? You become more aware. You start to accept yourself fully. you start to take accountability, you start to see all the signs, make the connections, and then towards the end of your journey, the latter half, you start to become curious in a sense of like, okay, I'm still triggered by this event.
Mm.
Why? But then you're not emotionally charged. You're very aware, and then you start to become more of a detective in your own life, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm still feeling remnants of this situation with this person. So how am I going to solve this, or how am I going to, move or navigate myself through this situation without taking too much of my time and energy?
Mm.
But at that point, you're so aware of your own emotions and thoughts that you can navigate it easily. A trigger that's going to take you like maybe a week or so to get through might take you like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
because now you have all the tools, you have all the, different exercises you can do to regulate yourself. Um, yeah, without, causing any emotional or physical harm on yourself or anybody else, right? When you meet someone like that, you can pretty much tell by their demeanor, by their character, how they communicate. A lot of things change when people start to heal, right? Like
Move different, Jay.
you move different, you talk different, your circle of friends and who you commune with is different, like I mean your vocabulary changes, your body language, everything changes. But when people are on this journey, they're mainly more on in their survival mode, right?
Yeah.
So they're doing everything in a heightened state of survival because that's all they've known whole
Mm-hmm.
lives. So, going through this journey and helping my clients, I help them create that awareness and give them tools to help them understand how to regulate themselves in these specific situations, because, you know, you don't want to always be in fight or flight, for like a long period of time, because that could be a very detrimental thing to your physical health, your mental health,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what caused you to feel burnt out in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. People think
Yeah.
that that's normal. Fight, flight, freeze, and there's one more. I forgot.
Fawn. Yeah.
Fawn.
And you start to people please. Right.
Yeah. God, that's. I feel like that's something we should go into. Could you,
Yeah.
Jay?
Yeah, for sure. Um, depending on your upbringing, the conditioning that you have, most of my clients, they, like I said, come to me in a heightened state of, having a dysregulated nervous system, being in like fight or flight, freeze, or fawn, right? A lot of my clients have most of them are people pleasers, right? So in order to survive, they've had to put everybody else first, right? They had to make sure everyone else is taken care of. They were probably parentified at a very young age, from their parents. um, Lack of empathy, right? Lack of self-care.
Mm.
That's why self-care is a huge pillar in my coaching style and what I help my clients to do. And this turns back the attention that is needed for an individual for themselves,
Yeah.
because their whole lives, right, since they were young, they needed to help everyone else. So what happens to that is we start to forget who we are.
Mm.
And now we put value, we put our self-worth, we put our integrity, we put our trust in other people. But when it comes to us, there's nothing, right? There's like that we don't even know what we want. We don't even know, what makes us happy. We don't know what makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
We don't know what, makes us feel joy.
Yeah.
And so in that whole survival mode, we tend to not understand who we truly are, so we lose ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
then we, that integrity, that authenticity, we start to like emulate other people, other situations, right? We find value in other things, in material things, right? And so this is a survival mechanism that a lot of people go through.
Yeah.
And the most important thing to learn and to understand is, when people are in this, because they're so conditioned, they're not even aware,
Mm.
right? There are many times where I would ask you a question like, "Do you know that you do this?" And you're just like, I really?" It's not until you work with someone else or a coach or a mentor, that and they're gonna point out these things, they're gonna ask you the right questions and say like, do you know you really like, put yourself down in these situations? Do you know that you know, uh, put more value or more emphasis on this person rather than yourself, right?
Yeah.
So a huge part of, my coaching style is to help you develop this muscle of literally loving yourself, right? Literally putting yourself first.
Mm.
And that's what self-care is. And like I said earlier, a lot of people, on the list of people of priority, they put themselves like at the very bottom, right? I would ask them questions like, you know, who do you love the most? Or who do you value the most? Or who do you prioritize the most? They would name all these people, right? My kids, my parents, my best friend. And I would always ask a question like, what about yourself? Where are you on the list? Right. And then boom, they're like, oh, I didn't even think of myself.
Or
Right.
they or they come up with the one thing, Jay, that they say, "Oh, my highest priority is to take care of other people."
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't fault them for that, right? You can't really blame them for that. And even when they hear themselves say that,
They believe it.
there's an underlying strong belief
Mm.
for themselves. And sometimes I have to break them out of that belief
Yeah.
because their actions speak louder, because I would ask them, okay, like in this situation with your partner, what do you do?
Mhm.
Right. And they'll say, oh, I do all these things for my partner, da, 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 but like, there's no reciprocation in our relationship.
Mm.
And then they seem to be okay with that, right? They seem to be like, so you don't do anything for yourself? Like, how do you, what are some activities that makes you feel joy that you do on a regular basis for yourself, right? And
Mhm.
they can't name one thing,
Mm.
like they can't even sit down and take a breath for themselves without feeling any type of guilt or shame. Because the moment they put that attention back on themselves, it brings up all these negative emotions. Because in the past,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
they've been criticized or ridiculed for taking any time to
Yeah.
themselves. So now as they get older, that's their baseline.
Mm.
So there's a lot of times where I have to, teach my clients about what true self-care is. And it's not just like, I'm gonna go get a massage or I'm gonna, take a week off, every quarter. I
Yeah.
mean, it's about like incremental, intentional activities you do daily to
Right.
help you build that muscle and to help you understand like I matter. My needs matter too, right?
The universe
And
confirmed.
yeah, so crazy. So I have to explain that to some people because every time I do some of these interviews, they're just like, "How did that happen?" So I use my iPhone as a continuity camera, so like the gestures sometimes create these bubbles, which I think is cool, right? Because sometimes
Heck,
it just comes in like the most opportune time, and like you just said, like, see the universe first.
I mean, that's one thing that you taught me, Jay, is about like listening to the small nuances
Mhm.
of how the universe confirms the things that we're talking about, the things that we're feeling. And I mean, just going back to the whole fawning thing about people pleasing, um, really emphasizing, because you mentioned earlier that people get into these activities, but these are just things that we're doing to create a busyness and not really things that we're doing with intention. Intention meaning that something that you're doing, that you're putting your energy into to really gain clarity for yourself and the insecurity that was created. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so this is the space to give a small thing back to yourself. Like you said, it's incremental,
Mhm.
very incremental. Mm.
Yeah. And, you know, for some of my clients who has never done anything for themselves, even teaching them basic skills like breathing or like resting, right? Or like just choosing themselves first, it feels very foreign to them. Like their body even rejects it, right? That's why even when I initially asked them, like, oh, why don't you just take time to rest, to just sit there and not do anything and just breathe for like 3 minutes? Boom, instant. They'll start to fidget. They're like, oh, I can't do that. I need to stay busy. I need to go clean. All right, do these things. They'll start to make excuses. And like I said, most of my clients, they're not aware that they're even doing that. But because they're so heightened in their survival mode and they feel like they need to be busy, right? It's just them protecting themselves from not feeling or not processing something that they were supposed to process in the past,
Mm.
right? And that's where the emotions come in. Like for me, I had a lot of repressed anger, resentment, right? Based on all the conditioning and upbringing and trauma that I had with my father,
Yeah,
right?
I'm not shaking my head because I know what you went through, Jay. I'm shaking my head because I felt that way. I've had those experiences, so I'm like, I know what
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
get
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I can attest to it myself. I've had those behaviors myself, and that's the beautiful part of healing. That's the beautiful part of gaining this self-awareness and understanding for yourself. You start to dissect your own behaviors, your own thoughts. You start to question, uh, the things that you do, the decisions that you make. And like I said, sometimes it's very difficult because you truly have this conflict within yourself, right? Because there's this conditioned part of you that you've been living almost your whole life, and then you start to like have this awareness, right? Because you're on your healing journey, and
Right.
you start to question all of your decisions and all of your behaviors, and then now this internal conflict is happening.
Yeah, it's like
And
that old Indian saying, "The lion or the wolf that you feed the most is the one that's going to win," or something like that.
correct, yeah, yeah, yeah. Which wolf are you gonna feed the most, right?
Yeah.
And but within that internal chaos, right? Because it is very chaotic. The more you practice self-care, right, and the more you question, the more you have, self-empathy, self-compassion, uh, the better it's going to be to help you navigate through that internal chaos. And
Hmm.
that's where, having a coach or a mentor is very helpful because we're very humans are very predictable, right? And if we are behaving in a certain way, it's easy for us to go back to what we know.
Hmm.
And so many of my clients on this journey, specifically when they get to the second stage, which is acceptance, this is the hardest stage in the whole 5 stages of my healing journey, right? The acceptance stage is where you have this internal battle because now you're aware that you can be a certain way because your outlook on life is brighter, right? You want to like heal, you want to do things and be better, but then you have this old self that you're hanging on to,
Mm,
and you're just like, but this is what's familiar. This is what is quote unquote safe,
mm,
right? This is what's going to keep you alive, right? That's where the whole dysregulated nervous system comes in. So now, you have to do a lot of self-forgiveness,
mm,
right? Self-compassion, right? You have to practice radical acceptance of yourself, right? You have to understand like all the things that happened to you in the past wasn't your fault. You're gonna have to need a lot of validation. You're gonna have to learn how to feel safe within your body, right? Because most times it's because we didn't feel safe, or we were violated, or we were put down in the past, or ridiculed, or made to feel shame and guilt in our childhood, is where a lot of these behaviors come from, right? A lot of this, I always have to stay busy, or I'm overachieving, or I'm people pleasing. These are very common behaviors of, people who have been through a lot,
mm.
in the past.
Wow. It gives thought to the behaviors we have. And if you are watching and any of these things resonate with you, um, you've experienced trauma,
Yeah.
and everybody experiences it to some degree. And there are tools. Um, and I think this might be a call for you, for the universe, for you to reach out and connect, and ground yourself. Stop being busy.
Or for me, and myself personally, and even a lot of my recent clients, uh, learning how to truly rest
Hmm.
is very pivotal in the healing journey, right? Initially, for everyone, who've experienced trauma, we have to visit those situations, have a lot of empathy, compassion, understanding for it. We have to process through them, right?
Mhm.
Because in the moment of the traumatic event, we were never given the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
That's what led to a lot of these, you know, overwhelming emotions or negative behaviors, or even positive behaviors, but then they're not serving us, right? So even like you being an overachiever, right, or a perfectionist, right? Those are still things that could be very, very detrimental, because it puts us in this like anxiety driven, state of being, that we always have to be right, or we always have to do something perfect, right?
Yeah.
But also stems from traumatic events. And trauma is a part of, I believe, is a part of life. Like I said earlier, we all go through something, right? Even if you think you've had like a perfect relationship, or even with your parents, or upbringing, one small moment in life can lead to, a huge um, catalyst in your healing journey, because you never even thought of it that way,
Mm,
right? And so we really have to dissect all of those things. And one of the one of the markers that we can look at is our own behaviors, right? when when things start to get too overwhelming, or when your friends, or your people who are close to you would tell you things, like, this is where you start to pay attention. For me, like I said, my wife was always telling me, like, God, you get angry so easily, right? Or why are you yelling? Like when we would be like talking, or have a normal conversation, and I would feel triggered, but I wasn't aware. Like, my voice and my tone would get really loud,
mm,
and then I would like start with talking with my hands, and then like I'd like get really overbearing, and then I would start to like speak in a very condescending way. But in the moment, I wouldn't think that way, right? And in the
shut up.
moment, yeah, right. In the moment, I'm just like, I'm not yelling. What are you talking about, right? Like, this is the way I normally talk, right? So,
Like, even the body language, this is the way that I normally talk when you
yeah,
talk like that. Step, put your
right,
hands down, put your chest down.
right, right. But like I said, a lot of people aren't aware of this,
Yeah,
until someone points it out.
yeah,
And unfortunately, if they go about their lives and continue in that manner, you know, the cycle is just going to continue to happen. And
yeah,
this is why healing is so important. And I believe truly that everyone has to do this work.
yeah,
It's going to be the most sacred and important work that you're ever going to do for your family, yourself, your business, and anything that you do is going to transcend and translate into that activity. For myself, like all my kids, right? I mean, I was already repeating the same traumatic cycle that my dad was doing to me with my eldest. And that was another catalyst for me to understand, like, hey, I think I need to make some changes because I was already seeing the behavior within myself, right? And this is what causes generational trauma. That's why you have a whole huge generation of, children um, reliving, traumatic events that their parents went through, but just in a different setting, in a different environment, in a different era. But the emotions, the guilt, the shame, right? The abandonment, it's still being felt.
mm.
And it's unfortunate. So we all have to do the work.
No, we all have to do the work. And when you said like it is such a impact, because when we do the work, we now become so protective of this space because we want to maintain our peace of mind, our serenity. And so once we do that, we begin to value ourselves in a lot of areas of our life where we really didn't think about that the first time. Because, like you said, we were parentified. We gave away everything, all of us. But now through this sacred work, we collectively take those pieces back for ourselves. So,
Exactly. And you have to look at yourself almost like a energy broker, right? Because everything takes energy. Healing takes energy, awareness, thinking takes a lot of energy, right?
did you say energy broker?
Yes, energy broker. So
That,
we generate internally all this energy.
yeah,
And so when you start to heal and you start to be aware of your own production of energy, you can then pick and choose what person, what situation, what decision you have to make
yeah,
that you want to put your energy into. When you become very intentional about it, right? That energy that you expel or you take up to do becomes very valuable, right? For example, I'll give you an example. I went back to California, because right now I live in the Philippines. We went back to California. My eldest got promoted to high school, so she graduated 8th grade. And even before going back, um, I wanted to. I spoke to my wife and I said, there's a lot of people that probably want to, see us or spend time with us, right? Because we haven't seen them in like a whole year, and we made it a point, and we made it very intentional to see the people that we wanted to see
mm,
because of the energy reciprocation that we get, right? So I'm very intentional about the people I spend my energy and time with. And even when I went to California, the people that I saw, like I really wanted to see them because when I do see them, the energy exchange is very equal.
Uh-huh.
right? I'm getting something in return. It's not like a transactional thing where, you get this, I get this. It's like, we're in this space together and we're talking about, certain topics that really enlighten us, right? Really like, feed our soul, right? It's not just like it's cool here and there. It's like really, really intentional. And so, because I value my energy, when I come out of that situation, I want to feel, like
Cool.
I just got, pumped up, like how I feel when I see you. Like when I first saw you, I was like, "Ooh, I feel so good. This is gonna be a great conversation," and I'm energized, right? And
That's good.
that's what I always strive to feel. Because some people, like I'm pretty sure you're around this person and it might be sucking your energy, and you're just like, "Oh man,
Mhm.
I don't even want to be here. Man. I don't even want to be around this space. I don't want to be around this person because they're just like, toxic, or they're just unconsciously,
Yeah.
sucking the energy out of you. Right. And that's another byproduct of healing.
Mm.
Like you mentioned, when you get to a certain point and you start to value yourself and you start to understand your own energy production, you become a bit more sensitive
Yeah.
to the people, to the spaces, to the situations that you're put in. And you start to develop this like sixth sense, you're just like, what, I'm cool with that, or I don't even want to go there, I'm just gonna stay home. You know,
Yeah.
that's why a lot of people on this journey, on the latter half of the healing journey, they become a bit more introverted because they're so aware, they're
Selective.
so, like, yeah, they're so selective, they're so sensitive to like other people's energies and other people's
Yeah.
you know like
We become
emotions and
energy
stuff.
readers, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I do want to acknowledge Tony. Tony said, "What's
Tony, what's up, Tony? I see you.
he had a couple of questions for us. So one
Yeah.
is, how do you break that routine? And I'm not sure what you were talking about, T. So if you could emphasize. He also asked, is it also developing the ability to say no? And then the last question is, how old were you when you realized that you put into the what you put into the universe and what you ask the universe for determines your outcome? Dang, Tony, I'm gonna have to add you.
Wow.
Let's have a three conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Those are really good
Those are
questions.
questions.
Thank you for that. So let's start with this one.
Okay.
How old were you when you realized? For me, I had multiple instances where I started to understand, you know, my role in decision making. A lot of it came from uh, my understanding of my own pride and ego,
Mm.
right? When you start to understand, to become selfless and have empathy, is when the universe starts to begin to talk to you, right? Because at that point, when you're clouded by this huge ego of yours, right? You don't care about what happens. You don't care about other people's emotions. You don't care about other people's you know, uh, decisions or input or feedback, right? You always think that you're right. And like, F the world, F the universe. I'm the master of my own,
Mm. Mm.
of my own life and my world, right? But I think Oprah said it best, like you're not doing this alone. And by not doing it alone, she meant, higher powers. There's something out there. I don't know if your audience believes in God or whatever they believe, but there's something, greater than you. You can believe in the universe or whatever religion you're in, but something else is guiding you, is showing you the way, right? And when you start to heal and you start to understand that, like you mentioned earlier, there's these signs everywhere. There's nuances. There's things that you feel, things that you see, situations tend to work themselves out magically, right? And if you're not aware, you're not gonna see that. You're not gonna feel that. So for me, when I started to do my healing journey, like in my late 30s, and I started to do all this energy work for myself, I started to really pay attention to all of these signs. And there's an activity that I do with my clients. Um, I tell them to journal. I did this with you too. I told them to journal about specific things that they see. They might see a butterfly like just fly through, or they might go on a hike, and then they see a sign or some random, thing that's on the ground, but like you were meant to see that, right?
Yeah,
And then you get this overwhelming
gratitude.
feeling like, yeah, or of gratitude, of like synchronicity, right? That you're just like, man, that I was supposed to see that for some reason.
That was cool, Jay. I know I had like
Yeah.
a few of them.
Yeah.
When I was in,
Yeah.
even when I had finished the homework, I was like, "Hey, Jay, guess."
Yeah, right. And that's just being in the present moment. That's teaching you how to be in the present moment, because now you're taking a step back from like, living this busy, robotic routine,
Yeah,
life, and you're just sitting back and just being an observer.
yeah,
And then that heightens your awareness. So then now when you see these things, you're just like, wow, life is so magical, right? Life is so amazing. You're like, what else can the universe open me up to, right? And then when you start to look back and all these things, then you start to realize like, well, that incident was crazy too. Like that was all divinely orchestrated somehow. But I was just like this little speck of, a decision in that whole thing. But if this didn't happen, then it would have never led to this,
right.
right? I think Steve Jobs said it best: when you start to connect the dots, but you have to be aware of that. So, for me, it was like, in my late 30s when I really started to do this work, when I really started to prioritize my healing journey. And the most important thing was just to make that initial decision, to start the work to heal.
Yeah,
So,
I feel the need to bring up our body. Our body
yes.
is saying things to us in little, small, like pulsating ways. And I think that could also help in the beginning of creating awareness for your synchronicity and for yourself to that either you're in alignment with what you're talking about or you're not.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. Your physical aspect, this vessel that we have, this body, is very intelligent, right? God, or whatever you believe, built this mechanism for us to be very in tuned and in alignment. uh, when something is meant for you, your body will respond in a very subtle way, right? Sometimes it's like this overwhelming emotion of gratitude, or you get goosebumps, right? Like it's a very subtle reaction. Even when something's wrong for you,
Hmm.
you get this resistance, you get this subtle hesitation. But because most people are in survivor mode, they don't recognize, or they're not aware of those subtle reactions. Another thing that I teach my clients is uh, the muscle testing techniques, right? And like I said, our bodies are so intelligent. You can ask your body a yes or no question, and if you just surrender to your body, it will tell you the answer,
Totally,
right?
totally.
Based on, you know, what your subconscious is thinking, and your subconscious is always guiding you to the right thing,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah,
like this inner higher intelligence that we have.
yeah.
And so when we start to get, and that's another facet of healing too, is when you begin to heal, not only do you have like self-awareness mentally and cerebrally, or logically, but you also have more awareness within your body, right?
Hmm.
Like, what feels safe to you,
Yes.
what feels right to you, right? What doesn't feel right to you, right? What feels, unsafe to you. And like I said, when you listen to your body, you will get these answers. And Easy way to do that, is to help you regulate your nervous system, and you can do that just by breathing, right? Just sitting there and just taking deep breaths for 3 minutes, and get into like a calm state of being
Yeah.
physically, and just listen to how your body responds, right? When you have thoughts, those activate emotions, and those emotions then trigger a physical reaction.
Mm.
So in a certain situation, and I'm pretty sure you know this now, when you're put in a situation where you start to have these like questions or curiosity about it, and then your body responds and tells you, I don't think this is right.
Yeah.
Right. And then you might get like a twinge, or like you might start to move back a little bit, right? You might start to like feel uncomfortable. Those are very subtle signs.
Yeah.
And that's what the body helps you do.
Yeah.
Right.
I would encourage other people too to think about, because there's something that happened the other day. I wanted to go to an event, or I had an idea to go to the event. And I said to myself, I'm putting my key right in the door. I wonder if I should do this. Why did the dog next door go? "Ah?" And I'm like, and then I was like, did I? And then I asked the question again. And then the dog starts doing the same thing. I said, oh, okay, I got my answer.
Yeah. I mean, it all plays together, right? In this whole awareness and healing journey of yours. And everyone's different, right? Like I said, but the key thing here is, once you begin this journey, you're going to have more awareness in the present moment. And in that present moment, you're going to start to hear things, see things, the signs, the synchronicities, the hesitation, the resistance, the even the answers. Sometimes it's like blatant in your face. Should I do this? No. It's like you'll start to just veer off the road and be like, well, okay, I'm gonna take that as a sign. I shouldn't go here, right?
Yeah, the universe is totally supporting us. I think that I feel and think that our intuition is one of the most primal gifts that we've
Mhm.
been given.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you think about it, we've survived thousands and millions of years on this beautiful planet, because of our instincts.
Mm,
And like I said, but we tend to lose that connection to our intuition because we've been in such a heightened state of survival,
yeah,
right? It overtakes, our subtle guidance system that's supposed to help us move forward and progress in a more positive way,
yeah,
right? So that's another thing about, also healing, was when you start to practice self-care, you also start to teach yourself how to trust
yeah,
your own intuition. You have to rebuild that muscle. We all have it,
yeah,
but we tend to put it, you know, all the way in the back of the bus, because it's like we start to question ourselves, we start to like, have doubt, right? We start to self-sabotage, but all those negative behaviors are because we have such, traumatic conditioning,
mm.
and that's where it all stems from.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
I wanted to put up Tony's question that he asked. He said that he was talking about putting others before yourself and asking about breaking that routine. I know I said I was gonna have you answer some personal questions,
Yeah.
but I feel the need to answer this question.
Yes, it's a very good question. And breaking that routine is learning how to set boundaries,
Mm,
right? And this is very, very difficult for most people. Like
mm,
saying no, especially if you're a people pleaser, if you have this behavior, is very difficult because we put our value and our worth uh, on this behavior,
mm,
because we always think about what other people think, right? We put all of our emphasis on, proving ourselves to other people. when in reality, we don't have to, right? The only person you have to prove yourself to and be okay with is yourself.
Mm,
The more authentic you are, the easier life can be, right? Because then you can be able to let go of things. You don't have this crazy expectation that people set for you, right? You're just like, what am I going to be content with? And I'm going to be okay with that. And that's it, right?
mm,
But breaking that cycle of the routine of people pleasing, I teach my clients how to set boundaries. And when you learn how to set boundaries, you literally have to set boundaries with yourself first, right? And that's where the self-care routine comes in. When I first work with my clients, I have them create a self-care routine. And the routine is very short, right? Think about it. When you've been in survival mode all your life and you've been people pleasing all your life, you've been having this behavior all your life and you can't put yourself first. Why do why are you going to start doing things for yourself for like hours at a time, right? That's
mm.
gonna feel very foreign to you. You're gonna be like, well, I can't even like breathe for myself,
Totally.
without even thinking about other people, right? So initially I say, well, you know, let's start off with just like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? And these are very simple activities, but they, over a long period of time, if you stay consistent, that's what helps build the muscle of
Mm,
self-care, of, self-love, of self-forgiveness, right? And
keep,
these activities can include like, just breathing,
yeah.
right? Checking in with yourself, with your body, journaling, right? Like simple, very simple things to do. Even like, scheduling, like literally writing or putting in the schedule, I'm going to spend 5 minutes right when I wake up to
Mm,
just sit in bed for myself and just not do anything, right?
mm,
Just that, right? Some of my clients who are like chronic people pleasers, I have to start like from scratch. It's just like, just open up your eyes and just take 3 deep breaths. That's
mm.
all I want you to do for 20 days straight, right? And even that causes a lot of resistance because, they're already active when they get up. Their mind is already racing. But that's from years and years and years of being in survivor mode,
Yeah.
right? So the key about, breaking the routine is to replace the routine with something positive,
Mm,
right? And that something positive has to be something very easily achievable, right? Like I said, like breathing. You have to breathe to live, right? So make it more intentional by just taking a breath for yourself, right? Like you don't even have to get up in the morning. Just open up your eyes and just breathe for 1 minute. Right. And yeah, I couldn't even tell you just with that exercise alone, how many of my clients, it's changed their lives. It's changed their whole perspective. It's like led them to understand like, wow, like I don't even check it with myself. I don't even like feed myself throughout the day. I don't even like go to the bathroom. Like I'm always like, go, 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 go. I forget to eat. And I'm just like, and now do you see where it can be very unhealthy for you in every other aspect of your life? And then they start to realize that, right? But it just starts with one simple activity. And you
yeah.
have to break them out that, cycle, ease them into something a little bit more positive. And then when they get the hang of it, right, you start to add, longer activities, or you start to add a bit more intentional activities like, journaling for 3 minutes or going for a walk, right? Like taking a break, or, you know, have a sleep routine where you don't check your phone, right? Like understand what you're consuming in the digital space, understand like how you're receiving information. Like in each phase of the healing journey, we start to implement, bigger and more intentional activities so that they can build that self-awareness and build that muscle of like, putting themselves first, right? Setting the boundary, or, loving themselves. And the most important part of setting boundaries.
Mm.
And I'll never forget it, when I had to go through this, because when you say yes to others,
Same.
you're also saying no to yourself.
Yeah.
So this is where you can quote unquote be a little selfish because like you think about all your life, you've been giving, 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 giving. It's about time you give some to yourself, right? And you deserve it, right?
Mm.
At the end of the day, you've done so much for others. Why not do it for yourself? It's about that time.
Totally. For people that I'm sure they hear journaling all the time, and they probably don't know what to write because they've kind of been prompted what to do. Like, what would be some of the beginning, I guess, prompts for them to start their writing journal? Because some people can't yet be in that space where they're occupying what it looks like for them.
Great question. I think this is very synchronistic. I hated journaling. I hated writing. As a coach, I use that tool because it's so effective.
Mhm.
I had to learn how to journal. I had to learn how to do it on a consistent basis. And for me, it started off by just writing the date. It was like today's date. And that's it, right? I mean, if nothing came to me, I would just write random things. I would just like scribble or, just doodle, whatever. And then as you continue to practice and work this muscle, things will start to come. You can write about how you feel. You can write about what you're seeing. You can write about your emotions, right? You can write about something that you're grateful for. There's a lot of prompts out there that you can use. I mean, there's apps and there's, websites you can go through. But for people who were like me that didn't like writing, first thing was just the date and my name, and sometimes I would just sit there and just be like, okay, I'm drawing a blank, but it also helps you understand like you are starting something that you don't like. So for me to sit there in my own anguish, I was just like, well, at least the book is here. At least I got the pen in my hand. I
You
know
showed
something. Yeah,
up.
and,
Yeah.
and this teaches you like compassion for yourself too, right? Because when you don't like to do something, why are you going to continue to force you have to ease yourself into it? And I
Mhm.
think after 13 days, that's when I started to like literally like use prompts like what are 3 things that I'm grateful for, or what am I looking forward to doing today. Or another big thing for me personally, because I was so out of touch with my own emotions, I try to write about describing how I felt, right? And for like I swear, like for the first 15 days, it was like, I don't know how I'm feeling. Um, I guess I feel happy. And it was always the same thing. It was like, I guess I feel sad, or I don't know what I'm thinking about. It was so like, just all over the place. But and the good thing about journaling is you can go back and read it. So a week would go by, I would go back and read it. I'm just like, yeah, I was really stuck. Like I'm really out of touch with how I feel. I don't even know how to explain how I feel. There's no vernacular about explaining disappointment or grief or abandonment or resentment. Like I didn't know any of these terms, right? It was just like, yeah, I don't know how I feel.
I wanted to bring up one more thing, Jay, is that when people are going through this process, that because someone may process something one way does not mean that that is your process.
Right.
We all approach life in a different way, and some might be a bit slower on certain subjects and topics. Others might be a bit quicker in certain subjects and topics. Um, Kind of going back to what you said about when you were writing these things, you're just there, you're writing your name, you're giving yourself grace, you're also giving yourself back value. So
And
it is 5 o'clock, Jay.
I,
I want to go longer, and gosh, we have to do a part two. But I want to respect your time. I
of
heard
course.
you in the background, and I felt your body, and I was like, "All right, universe, I hear you." So as much as you guys want the goods, you're gonna have
Yeah.
to wait for part two, or just go with Jay and have a sign up with him and have longer conversations. Because I'm telling you, I did the work with him,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's changed my life. He's helped me to facilitate a part of myself that I didn't know that I had held back or had some subconscious behaviors. Like I didn't know that I didn't know. I did not, I wasn't expressing my feelings. I always said, "Oh, I think, I think, I think." And he's like, "Fran, do you realize you're saying I think, but not how you feel? How do you feel?" I'm like, right now I feel pissed off.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
And I just want to give your audience one last thing as a tool. Um, if you want to, if you are curious of where you are in the healing journey, you can always go to my website, www.jchanthalangsy.com. You can fill out a questionnaire, and based on how you answer those questions, I will send you a report on where it is that you are in the journey, and give you some, tools to start your healing journey as a resource.
yeah,
So, like I said, I think this is very important. It's not talked about enough. And lastly, and I'm sure you know this too, when we start to heal, that energy then starts to trickle, right? Then that you create your own ripple effect of healing as a byproduct. So the more healing you can do, the more healing the earth and those around you, or the world and other people, or you might not even know it, but like you are impacting them in a very positive way. Even like right now, a person can be watching this and they could be curious because we're sharing our stories, and we can then start that ripple effect for them too. So
yeah.
it's
So
very sacred work. So thank you, Fran.
if y'all want change, man, I'm saying sign up with Jay, talk to him, get that
Right.
report. Like for real, if anything, just get the report so you can have a baseline for where you are.
Mm.
If you don't have a best friend or somebody in your ear that can tell you an unbiased opinion, this would be a great start for you. So I invite whoever's watching this to do that. So Jay, I know you already said your website, but please share with them wherever the places that you are at so they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on all social media platforms, although I haven't been really active on it as of late, but you can find all the information on my website. I have some free resources there for you. Like I said, like Fran said, at least if you're curious about it, do the questionnaire. It only takes like 5 minutes. And like I said, you'll get the analysis from me. And if you want to set up a call, we can do that too, just to give you more direction on where you might think you need to start on this healing journey. And just you doing that is already half the battle,
Yeah.
right? If you're curious and you want to take the next step, it's already you're already doing wonders for you, your lineage, the world, because healing is the hustle.
That's enough, y'all. You guys got to
Yeah.
wait. All right,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thank you so much for your energy today. I really appreciate you.
uh,
And
Likewise.
till next time, hold on. And I'm going to end these streams.
All right.
All right. Bye, y'all. Happy Friday.
Happy Saturday. Where I'm at.
Yeah, that's right. Happy Saturday in the
Yeah.
Philippines. Let me see. I hope I